I'm walking through a ghost town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down, don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong, don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page, but we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi racer riding out till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi racer riding out, wheels stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Monday, sir.
Happy Monday, partner, and happy Monday, everybody out there listening.
Guys, we got a lot to get to this morning. Let's start in the WNBA, where we have brand new WNBA champions. The New York Liberty win their first ever WNBA championship, but Mo, it did not come without controversy. In fact, the head coach of the Lynx is leading into the controversy as she opened up her post-game press conference, basically saying that the championship was stolen from her team by the officials, and she is very disappointed in their performance. Now, Mo, she doesn't have, if you look at the stats, there might be some merit to her claims. The Liberty are traditionally a very aggressive team. If you look at their path to the postseason, their path in throughout the playoffs, and their path to the championship, one thing has basically remained the same about this team is they do play an aggressive brand of basketball. Now, usually when you hear aggressive brand of basketball, you assume that if you're going to look at numbers as far as fouls called, that a more aggressive team is probably going to have more fouls called against them. That was not the case last night. In fact, it was not the case by a wide margin. I believe 19-12 was the margin of fouls called, 19 for New York, 12 for the Lynx. But when you look at points that came from the free throws, New York was over 20. The Lynx were at 6 as far as the charity stripe is concerned. And when you're looking at a game that went into overtime, when you're looking at a team in New York who shot 30% from the field, which is also another thing that the Lynx head coach pointed out when she said flat out, they freaking shot 30% from the field, Mo. This was not a game that was won based on their field goal percentage. This is a game that was won from the free throw line. She leaned into it, Mo. She leaned into it hard. Is there any merit to what she was saying?
So I watched the whole game. And you hate for a great series to end on kind of a sour note. I think she has merit to it. They lost the game because they shot 7 or 8 free throws, and New York shot like 25. And I watched the entire game, and there were some questionable calls throughout the game that seemed to go the Liberty's way. But more importantly, Napheesa Collier, who's arguably the best player on the floor, scored 22 points. She didn't shoot a single free throw. And I watched her get contacted on multiple plays, no calls. So look, I don't want to go along with the controversy. I want to congratulate the Liberty on their first championship. I like to say they earned it. But the Lynx's coach complaints, I don't think this is sour grapes. I think they're valid. But there's not going to be a do-over. The Liberty are the WNBA champions. And so I'm just going to give them their flowers and salute the WNBA as a whole for giving us a great season.
Mo, what can a team in that situation do? So you look at a team like the Liberty, and they're normally aggressive. That's the brand of basketball they play. And Mo, in playoff basketball, in any sort of playoff situation, more times than not, whistles are going to swallow, or refs are going to swallow their whistle. In this situation, it seems they swallowed it more for one side than the other. But when you find yourself in that situation, is it one of those things where, as the head coach of the Lynx, the best thing you can do is ride it out and hope it self corrects? Or looking back and playing Monday morning quarterback, is there something that she should have done with her squad as far as making them more aggressive, as far as changing what they were doing on their side, just in case it didn't self correct itself?
I thought the Lynx played their style. The reason why the series went to a game 5 was because even though New York is known as an aggressive team, the reason why the Lynx are there is because they play an aggressive style themselves. And she was complaining throughout the game. I don't think that her players didn't adjust or weren't as physical or as aggressive. The calls just didn't go their way. And again, I'm not trying to water down what New York did because they're the champs and they are a terrific team. And if anybody watched this series throughout like I did, the first 4 games were amazing. I mean, they were just amazing with all kind of drama. It's not that this game didn't have drama. Obviously, it was the final game and it went into overtime, but it was so ugly. It was an ugly game. Like you said the Liberty shot 30%. I think the Lynx shot like 35%. They didn't shoot much better. I mean, it was ugly. Sabrina Ionescu, I think she was 1 for 19. Williams, who was terrific for the Lynx throughout, I think she was like 2 for 18. I mean, it was ugly. Like Stewie, who I think she ended up winning finals MVP, she didn't have a great game. She didn't play well. I mean, it was an ugly game. The best player on the floor by far was Collier. And like I said, the whistles, they just didn't seem to go, they weren't as balanced. But I don't think there's much more she could have done. I think that's what why she was so upset in the post game. She was saying things and pointing that out during the course of the game. Um, it's tough. It's really tough the way that game played out, but it is what it is.
Also, during her post game press conference, she made it a point to say that the Lynx do things the right way, obviously alluding to transgressions by some of the other recent WNBA champions in the league. You might recall that New York was previously fined $500,000 for illicitly chartering flights during the 2021 season. The Vegas Knights had their 2025 first-round draft pick rescinded for violating league rules regarding impermissible player benefits. So after she kind of got off the soapbox of the officiating, Mo, she then went on to the soapbox of her team leads by example. Her team plays by the rules. Her team isn't like she didn't say anything. She wasn't name dropping. She wasn't name dropping Mo,
Right.
but we know what she was referring to. Mo, I had no issue with the referee chatter. Just the numbers, the sheer numbers that she was pointing out, and she brought numbers with her. She didn't come to the post-game press conference empty-handed, Mo. She knew her numbers when she came to the post-game press conference. I had no issue with the referee chatter. I could have done without the moral chatter. I could have done without the "we do things right." Obviously throwing shade on the Aces, who are back-to-back champions, and now the Liberty, who are the current champions. I could have done without that one.
I'm with you. I understand her frustration with the officiating. That I had no problem with. She kind of drifted over into a whole nother area about a lecture on what's right and we do things unnecessary. You could stop at the fact that you were frustrated with the calls and left it there. She didn't read the room. She didn't know when to stop.
She was just angry, Mo. She was just mad at that point.
Yeah, at that point, right. At that point, it's just sour grapes because you did just lose the championship. and there are no do-overs, and everybody knows there's no do-overs. You lost the championship. I think the second part of her rant was really her just venting because they lost the championship.
Mo, if you are Major League Baseball, you literally just had every single one of your wishes granted. You just locked in a World Series between the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. So, what does that mean? Well, that means that you have the East Coast versus the West Coast. That means you have the two biggest brands in Major League Baseball today and historically. That means that you have most likely the AL MVP in Aaron Judge and the NL MVP in Shohei Ohtani playing in the World Series together. That also means that you have the biggest free agent in baseball as far as upcoming this offseason playing in the World Series in Juan Soto. It also means that you have one of the biggest producers this entire postseason in Giancarlo Stanton playing in the World Series. Mo, this could not have gone any better for Major League Baseball as far as if they could sit here right now and just handpick what they wanted the World Series to look like, this is what they would have picked. Now, the question is, what kind of ratings is it going to pull? How is MLB going to spend the next week and a half marketing this? And what are they going to put together to really kind of put the extra oomph on it? Because, Mo, as you know, and I'm sorry, baseball purists, say what you want about baseball, but baseball at times is a local sport. And how do we know this? Look at the World Series that Boston and St. Louis was in. Terrible numbers. Why? Because Boston's a draw. St. Louis Cardinals are not a draw. Look at the World Series that the Colorado Rockies were in. Terrible numbers. Why? Because the Colorado Rockies are not a national draw. So when you get a team into the World Series that is not a brand, that is more of a local team that has, a small market or what have you, the numbers tend to reflect that. Mo, this is a completely different situation. This is bingo. This is Yahtzee. This is everything Major League Baseball could have hoped for their World Series. And I hope for Major League Baseball's sake, Mo, they pull a huge number from this World Series because I don't know what other matchup has more potential than this one.
And I hope for Major League Baseball that we get a great series. We get a series filled with drama and great plays, and you get to see Judge and Ohtani on display, and they both have big moments. And don't forget, there is a history between the Yankees and the Dodgers, and I'm sure they're going to play that up as well. This is a great opportunity for Major League Baseball, and I just hope they don't waste it.
And one of the biggest issues, Mo, that Major League Baseball has had previously is marketing. They have been scrutinized almost on a regular basis for seemingly their inability to market their stars and to market all their stars across the league. This one shouldn't be hard, Mo. You literally have the two best players in baseball in this series. It almost should market itself if MLB will just put together the nice video packages for it. So hopefully they are on the ball there, and we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Mo, let's talk a little NFL, shall we? We had some football. Go on since the last time that you and I hung out together. Let's start with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New England Patriots. They played from London this week. The Jaguars doubled up the Patriots. Not doubled up, almost doubled them up. Almost doubled them up. It was 32-16. Obviously, if you are a fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are now 2-5, you look at this, and this was a convincing win. They had a 22-point second quarter. Did Trevor Lawrence and company tank Bigsby had a huge game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But Mo, I look at this and okay, great. You beat the Patriots. Just the same way I look at the Dolphins and say, great, you beat the Patriots this season, you beat the Jaguars this season. Like, I understand a win is a win. I get that. And we don't take away wins in this league, Mo. But you cannot come out of this game. I don't care who won this game. There was no coming out of this game and feeling good about the winning team because nothing has changed between these two teams. Drake May was in there for his second NFL start. He looked more comfortable. He looked more poised in the pocket. He was throwing the ball around the yard. He avoided interceptions. But at the same time, the offensive line is still terrible. At the same time, they're not scoring a ton of points because even though he looks more comfortable, Mo, and even though he had a handful of really nice throws in the game, he's still at times running for his life. He's still at times rushing through his progressions, and he's still struggling on a team that just isn't very good. And you say all of that to then turn around and look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we thought were going to at least be in the conversation with the Houston Texans for that division. And sure, they look good, but they look good against, in my opinion, an inferior competition. And even though they look good, Mo, like I said, it was a 22-point second quarter. That means the rest of the game they scored 10. So, yeah, they look good for a quarter, Mo. They look great. For a quarter, it all came together. But they didn't look that great in the first quarter. And they didn't look that great in the third quarter. I'll take the fourth quarter out of it because it was pretty much over by then. But, yeah, for a quarter, the Jacksonville Jaguars look great. Maybe they can build on that, Mo.
We always talk about taking the win, ugly or pretty. I just look at Jacksonville and them beating the Patriots. Like I said, it doesn't move the needle for me. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are a bad football team. And I watched a little bit of this game. I didn't watch all of it because it was a boring game. I thought Trevor Lawrence played his cleanest game of the season, but he didn't really. I thought he dinked and dunked more or less. He didn't do a lot. They won the football game just because if you don't turn the ball over versus a team like the Patriots, you're gonna win the football game because they don't have the firepower. They're not going to do anything offensively. And that's not a knock against Drake May because, like you said, I thought he looked good. I think he is going through rookie pains, but he's also going through those rookie pains with not a lot of offensive weapons beside him. And one of the worst, if not the worst, offensive line in football. So to get a win, you're Jacksonville, you needed a win, you got the win. It doesn't change anything for me for either franchise. The Patriots are in rebuild mode. I'm starting to think they don't know it, but Jacksonville might start going that way as well.
Mo, we have what on paper was a blowout between the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. But if you watched any of this game, Atlanta was very much in this game. There was a point in the game where Atlanta scores a touchdown. They make it 17-14, and they're there. They're in this game. And then there's a bit of a meltdown with the Atlanta offense. There was a Kirk Cousins fumble on the following drive. There was a pass that was put in Drake London's chest that he couldn't catch. That turned into an interception on a drive after that. On a drive after that, there was another Kirk Cousins interception. And things just kind of caved in quickly and snowballed quickly on the Atlanta Falcons. And it results in a 34-14 drubbing by the Seattle Seahawks, who are kind of picking themselves off the deck a little bit. Remember, this team started 3-0, did the Seahawks, only to lose 3 games in a row. Now they're 4-3. So they snapped their 3-game losing streak. The Falcons, as much as we've talked positively about them this season with what Kirk Cousins has been doing, the numbers he has been putting up, they are just a 4-3 squad. Let's not lose that in the mix. If you had to ask me today in a playoff game, do I take Atlanta or Tampa? I lean Tampa today. Obviously, if Cousins and the Falcons are humming towards the end of the season, maybe I change my opinion there. But I look at the Falcons as a team that They're basically playing 500 football right now. And we've seen the great Kirk Cousins and we've seen the not so great Kirk Cousins. And we need to see more of the great one than the not so great if they are going to make a run or make any noise this season. And Mo, I look at the Seattle Seahawks as a team where they had to stop losing at some point. They're still over 500. You look at that division, your division, Mo, kind of wide open at the moment, right? Like with what the Niners are dealing with, Seattle's now a game over 500. The Rams got stuff they're dealing with. The Cardinals got stuff they're dealing with. You put Seattle in a different division, maybe I feel differently. But in the current composition of the NFC West, Seattle's right there. Seattle is in the thick of it. So I look at Seattle and I'm okay. I'm a little better with Seattle this morning than I am with the Falcons, just because I think that Seattle's path to a division title as of right now is a little less murky because the Niners aren't playing great football. Whereas I look at the Falcons and I look at the Buccaneers and I'm like, I don't know if you're going to beat them. And I don't like the up and down football that the Falcons are playing. And the Falcons do have a team in front of them that I think is playing good football right now that they have to overcome. Now, I'm not sitting here this morning saying the Seattle Seahawks are going to win their division, Mo, but we don't know. We don't know how that division is going to shake out right now because things are a little unsettled. So coming out of this game, brava to the Seahawks because they needed to pick themselves off the deck, and they did just that.
No, I thought it was a workmanlike win for the Seahawks. Although in watching the game, if 3 plays had turned differently, I could see Atlanta winning that football game.
Mm-hmm.
I could. I'm thinking, could the NFC South potentially have 2 teams that make the postseason? Because I think the NFC West, I think they're going to have 1 team, and I don't know if it's going to be my favorite team because they're not playing good football. And I don't want to make excuses. Yes, they have a lot of injuries, but a lot of teams have injuries. They weren't playing a lot of good football before they had the injury. So I think the division's in question, but I'd rather be the Seattle Seahawks today than the San Francisco 49ers.
No, the Buffalo Bills absolutely beat the brakes off the Tennessee Titans. It was a rough first half for brand new Buffalo Bill Amari Cooper. It was a great second half for brand new Buffalo Bill Amari Cooper. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Amari Cooper Devontae Adams comparison later on in the show this morning. But for Cooper, he finishes with his first ever catch as a Buffalo Bill. I believe he had 3 or 4 catches in the game for 60-something yards. He got the touchdown. The Titans are a bad team. Tennessee Titans are a bad team. Buffalo was going to win this game regardless of what Amari Cooper did. So the Bills did what the Bills needed to do. They went in there. They roughed up a bad team. They distanced themselves even further from the rest of what is shaping up to be one of the most disappointing divisions in the NFL in the AFC East. And that's what you got to do, Mo. You need to beat the teams you're supposed to beat on paper.
Right.
And then against the teams that are as good as you or better than you, play 500 football. That is the recipe right there. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat on paper, and then at least play 500 football with the ones that are equal or better than you. And Buffalo is doing that right now. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat. This was a team they should have beat, and you move on. And I'm not going to sit here and dissect numbers. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the running game. I'm going to sit here and look at the scoreboard and say Buffalo handled business. They won by 24. We're not going to sit here and throw shade on a 24-point victory for the Buffalo Bills. If you're the Tennessee Titans, what did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to be the outcome of this, Mo?
Well, I mean, maybe they subscribe to the "so you're telling me there's a chance" way of thinking.
I mean, they started Mason Rudolph. They were probably looking for some Steeler magic, is what they were looking for here.
They're looking for something, that's for sure. Personally, I think they're looking for the next quarterback. And at the rate they're going, they're going to be in a good situation to draft him this coming draft because they're not going to be very good throughout the season. This is a franchise that's in disarray. Like you said, when we pick these games, we didn't give it a whole lot of thought. We were like, Buffalo's playing Tennessee. We're going to Buffalo. The results aren't shocking at all. The good team beat the bad team. We move on.
Josh Allen tied Aaron Rodgers and Hall of Famers Joe Montana, Brett Favre, and Terry Bradshaw for the six most wins for a quarterback in his first 100 starts. So well done there for Mr. Josh Allen. All right, Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. Wasn't pretty. It wasn't very exciting. But the Bengals, Mo, slowly but surely, they are clawing their way back to 500. They're currently sitting at 3-4. It was a divisional opponent. You know how tough divisional opponents can be, regardless of record. It just felt like a mess. It felt mucky throughout the entire game. Deshaun Watson exited Sunday in the first half after suffering an injury that is feared to be a season-ending torn Achilles. I don't wish injury on anyone, Mo, but this is looking to be like the third season as the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, where he is not going to play anywhere close to the entire season. The first year they acquired him, he had the off-the-field issues. The second year was injury-related, and now the third year looks like it's going to be injury-related. So what are the Browns going to do at quarterback? Is it going to be DTR? Are they going to go somewhere else? I'll tell you who they're not going to go to because he's not available right now. That is Joe Flacco. He is down there in Indianapolis. So if you're a Browns fan, it goes from bad to worse, maybe. Because, Mo, you have to also look at this and say, well, what if they get the first pick? What if they get a high pick? What if they get the 2 or the 3 pick? What if they take a quarterback early? What if they take a quarterback with the narrative being, we love Deshaun, but, the injuries. 2 years in a row, big injuries, cost him more than half the season. We got to have an insurance policy. Look at Miami and Tua. We got to have an insurance policy in here, right? And then maybe that's the backdoor route. Because let's be honest, and I understand he got hurt. All right, and again, you don't want anyone to get hurt, but he's not a good quarterback anymore. I don't know why. I don't have a reason for this, Mo. But his entire time he has been in Cleveland, he has not played good football. He has played average football at best. So, and you can sit here and tell me all you want about what Joe Flacco did coming off the bench and coming out of retirement was a mirage, and Flacco has his own flaws, and I get it, he does, but Flacco ran the offense better than Deshaun Watson ever did. And then you watch what Flacco is doing in his limited role coming off the bench in Indianapolis. He's still winning games, Mo. Like, is it just a situation where you're telling me Flacco is that much better of a quarterback than Deshaun Watson is? And if that's the case, we still have an issue on our hands. It's not better if that's the case. But you're looking at a Cleveland franchise, Mo, that is now has a quarterback that they can't do anything with. They can't trade him. They can't cut him. All they can do is keep him on the roster. When he plays, they're not winning football games now. Before, Mo, when he played subpar or average, they won football games. Last season, he didn't have great numbers, but they were winning football games. So you said, we'll take average quarterback play with a great defense, and we'll take 5-1 starts here in Cleveland. We're fine with that. Great. Well, now you have average to below average quarterback play. You don't have amazing defensive play, and you're sitting here as a team right now that's 1-6. So this is what happens when not everything falls in place like it did last season, the first 5 or 6 games, Mo, because that's what happened. Defense was playing out of its mind the first 6 games last year in Cleveland. Myles Garrett was playing out of his mind the first 6 games, and Deshaun Watson had a couple of good games, and he had a couple of bad games, and he had a couple of average games. And the result was you went 5-1. Well, now 1 year later, your defense is okay. They're not out of their mind, but they're not bad. And Deshaun Watson is playing more bad than he is good. And you were at 1-5 coming into this game. Now you're at 1-6. You've probably lost Watson for the entire year. You're probably hoping for a high draft pick, Mo, because again, this might be the only light to get you out of this situation. They can't cut him. They can't trade him. So unless they just put him on the bench, and DTR isn't the future of this team,
He's
I'm not putting the keys to the franchise in his hands. And you're not going to go out and sign a big free agent quarterback because you got all that money invested into Watson. So that's not going to happen. So, Mo, the only way I see for them getting out of this situation is to get a high pick and to draft Shedeur or to draft another quarterback. And that's the way. Now, I don't know if Deion's going to allow his boy to come play for the Cleveland Browns, Mo. I don't know if Cleveland's on the short list of teams that Deion would allow.
They're not. They're not. Let me just go ahead and end that. They are not on the short list.
But that's the only light I see right now if you're a Cleveland fan, and that's murky at best.
It's murky, and this is what happens when you make a move that is franchise altering. When you sign Watson to all that money, all that guaranteed money, the assumption was you thought, well, he's going to be, when he's healthy, as good as Lamar is, or somewhere between Lamar and Patrick Mahomes. That's, at least I have to think, that's what the Browns management was projecting, that he was going to be an elevator. We always talk about guys who are overcomers. I think they projected he was going to be special and be an overcomer. I think the situation with Watson is, I think it's a combination of the injuries, but I also think a big part of his problems are mental. They're mental because of all the things that he's dealt with. Whatever you believe or don't believe, it's definitely mental as well. And he's a subpar player. He will never be the player that he was with the Texans. And by the way, he was really good at times with the Texans, but let's not act like he was a top 5 quarterback. He was really good, but he wasn't like great. They're stuck with him, but they do need to go out this offseason, draft their future quarterback. You can spin it how you want to spin it. We love him, but the injuries have just worn him down. But he can provide leadership. However you want to spin it, right? But going forward, once they get everybody back healthy, and I'm talking about, they got Nick Chubb back, but you can tell Nick Chubb I think he's a year away, right? Mm-hmm. He's healthy, but he's not Nick Chubb just yet. So I think the team as a whole is a year away. But they made this move, Chris, that they knew it's all or nothing, and so far it's been nothing.
And now, Mo, with the injury at quarterback, you probably already weren't going anywhere, but you had the hope, Chubb's back. If we can get the running game going, the defense, maybe we can, do something here, string together some wins. No. With that being out the door now, I want to see a very little amount of Chubb the next handful of weeks.
Agreed.
Slowly integrate him back in. Don't put any pressure on him because you're not going anywhere at this point. There's no point in risking his injury because you're putting too much on his workload. You're bringing him back too quickly. Put him on a pitch count. Let him get a little bit of play in there. Let him knock off the rust slowly because, Mo, this team's not going anywhere. So there's no need to risk him re-agitating or him doing anything crazy because you see it all the time. Players come back from injury. They haven't played in a while. It's not necessarily that they re-injure themselves, that the injury they were initially out for. You see other things. It's hammies. It's other stuff that pops up just because they haven't been a part of the grind. So we don't need to see that with Nick Chubb. The Green Bay Packers knock off the Houston Texans. This game was interesting, Mo. The Houston Texans have an offensive line problem. They are struggling at times to protect CJ Stroud. And he hides a lot of that because he is mobile. He hides a lot of that because he is a quick decision maker. But you look at some of the critical moments in this game, and they were definitely impacted on the offensive side by the inability of the offensive line to protect CJ Stroud. Then you look at the Packers side, and again, we don't criticize wins, but it was an interesting performance from Jordan Love. He had two absolutely beautiful touchdown passes early in this game where you look at it and you're like, gosh, damn, Jordan Love. And then he had two brutal interceptions also in this game where you look at it and you go, what are you doing? Because they were on him. They were on his decision-making mode. They were balls he should not have let go from his hand, and he did. The Packers are a good football team. They're 5-2. But I will continue to say this about Jordan Love. You're going to have moments like this, and this is what I think he needs to clean up. It's this stuff. I hate to do this, but at the same time, I don't. He's got a little Josh Allen in him at times.
You said Allen. You said Josh Allen, and I was thinking the whole time he's got some Favre in him. But okay.
Right, it's just a little reckless for no reason. It's a little reckless for no reason. He has the skills, he has the tools, but if the Texans' offensive line was slightly better, this could have been a completely different outcome than it was. So obviously, it all worked out well here for the Packers, and obviously they're going to be really weighed by what happens in the postseason this year. But we got to clean up some of the careless turnovers that just didn't need to happen.
No, I agree. And I love your point about the Texans' offensive line because I almost feel like it's two different units. On the one hand, they're pretty good at run blocking. They are. They're actually a pretty solid group at run blocking, but they are horrible in pass protection. They just are. And I would say CJ Stroud shows signs of being an overcomer because he can hide things sometimes, but against a very good Packers team who has a pretty good defense, he couldn't hide anything. And I thought at times the Packers defense confused him. It was, to me, I thought it was one of the worst games I'd seen him play. I think he only threw for like 86 yards. It was like he was a non-factor. Really in a close football game because they were able to run the football. They made some plays on special teams and they had an opportunity and they just lost a close game to a Packers team who I thought moved the ball up and down the field throughout the game. Jordan Love, Chris, to your point, you can tell the arm talent. You can see it in some of the throws. But he does make those mind-numbingly passes where you're like, what did you see? You did see that he was triple covered, but you thought you could fit that in there. Like I said, you say Allen, maybe it's a mixture of Allen and Favre because you've got that arm talent. I think I could squeeze it in there. That's going to ultimately be what undoes the Packers when they get in the postseason.
And I think, and this is definitely going to be a shot at Josh Allen. I think the difference between Josh Allen and Brett Favre is that Favre always had the confidence of I can make the throw. Favre was always, I see it, it's there, I can make the throw. I think a lot of when you see Josh Allen break down, I think a lot of it is Josh just trying to put the team on his back and just do the unbelievable. Because a lot of times when you see Josh Allen making poor decisions, he's running around the field, he's throwing across his body, he's just physically in a position of throwing the football that you shouldn't be in for that throw. Whereas a lot of Favre stuff was he's in the pocket, he's got time, and he's just really confident he can squeeze that ball in there, and he couldn't because you can't throw through the body of a safety. But Brett Favre thought he could at times.
Insanely
so I think that's the difference. I think Favre always had the confidence of I can squeeze it in there. And I see Josh Allen sometimes when he puts the Superman cape on, whereas like you didn't have to put the cape on. You could have just threw it out of bounds. You didn't need to be doing all that extra stuff out there. And that's kind of the difference for me. And unfortunately, if you're a Texans fan, Mo, I think you're going to see a lot more CJ putting the cape on if he keeps running for his life with his offensive line because you know how this works, Mo. This happens 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row. In the back of Stroud's mind, he's going to get to that point where he's like, well, they're not going to protect me. So when I got the ball in my hands, I got to make it happen. I got to take the risk. I got to try to squeeze it in there. I got to extend the play. I got me. I got to do it because I know they're not going to do their job. And that's the last thing you want CJ Stroud to start doing.
No, I think if you're DeMeco Ryans and the OC, you want to impose upon him to be calm, take what the defense is giving you. Look, some games you're going to throw for 300 yards, and some games it might be a 193-yard game because the run game is on display and you're throwing underneath just to keep the chains moving. It's difficult. We almost have to remind ourselves he's still a young quarterback. He's still developing right before our eyes. And look, he is without his best wide receiver. Nico Collins is out. But you still have Hank Dell. You still have Stephon Diggs. So they have weapons. I think it's a learning experience. I think he's going to look at the film on this and notice that the Packers not only get after him, but they were confusing him with their coverages. And it's going to be a learning experience for him.
I can make 2 definitive statements after the Miami Dolphins lost this week. 1, the Dolphins suck without Tua Tagovailoa. And 2, the Colts are the biggest sham of a 4-3 team that I have ever seen in my life. Let's start with the Dolphins. I'm going to put a lot of this on head coach Mike McDaniels. I understand, Mike, that you run your system, you run it very, very well. But because of Tua's unfortunate injury history, you have been given numerous opportunities to run that same system with different quarterbacks, albeit lesser quarterbacks than Tua Tagovailoa. But what it has proven, Mo, is that he seems to not be capable of taking a lesser talented quarterback and producing viable, not great offense, not prolific offense, not leading the league in points or scoring offense, but a viable NFL offense. And this season, he has had 3 different quarterbacks. The season before last, he had 3 different quarterbacks in there besides Tua. And of those 6 quarterbacks, and again, none of them are starters in the NFL. But we have seen what other teams have done with backup quarterbacks who are not starters in the NFL, Mo. They can still score points. And the Dolphins can't do that without Tua on the field. And I don't think that is as much a it's not Tua issue as much as it is why can't we scheme better when Tua's not in there? Why are we running things that are still like a Tua skill set as opposed to any quarterback skill set? Obviously, all of that can change. Tua is going to come back this week. That is the plan. He will start practicing today, looking to return against the Arizona Cardinals. And again, we'll see what happens, Mo. Because obviously, if Tua comes back week 8, if the Dolphins beat the Cardinals and move to 3-4, now you're setting up a chance to get back to 500 against the Bills and knocking and getting one game closer. All the optimism is going to be sky high. But it doesn't change the fact that from a coaching and an offensive scheme perspective, the Dolphins have not been able to do anything with Tua Tagovailoa not in there against a team, by the way. And I get the Colts are 4-3, Mo. Their quarterback situation is awful. Anthony Richardson is not a starting quarterback in this league. And it is embarrassing that the Miami Dolphins lost to him. And I'm sorry, Anthony Richardson. 4 for 13 in the first half for 61 yards. He finishes his day, Mo. I believe he was 10 for 24 for 129 yards. He didn't have a touchdown. He didn't have any interceptions. He did have a big fumble in the red zone that cost the Colts early. This is not winning football from the quarterback position for the Colts. And you're not going to be gifted an anemic Dolphin team every week that, self-destructs. Let's look at the Dolphins' third quarter, Mo. They punted twice. They fumbled the ball in the red zone. They missed a game-tying field goal. Like, you're not going to be gifted teams like that week after week that just can't get out of their own way. You're going to have to play actual football teams. And Mo, the best the Colts have looked this season has been with Joe Flacco. And during the Dolphin game, especially in the first half, where the Dolphins are up by 10, Richardson's doing nothing, that camera kept panning to the bench, just seeing what Joe Flacco is doing. And he was just sitting there being happy-go-lucky Joe, talking to people. But if you're a Colts fan, you can love Anthony Richardson all you want, Mo, but don't you know your best chance to win and do anything productive this season is with Joe Flacco?
If they're going to make the postseason, it'll be with Flacco at quarterback. But obviously, with the belief that Richardson is your guy, you can tell they've committed to him, because if any other coaching staff, if you didn't commit to this guy, if you just watched him play in the first half of that football game, you'd give that guy the hook. He'd get the hook. But they don't want to mess up his psyche. They're still of the belief he's their guy. Because I live where I live, I'm always having these conversations with people going, he's an incredible athlete.
100%.
But he's not a gifted quarterback. He's not a good quarterback. And I know you don't want to hear this, and I always tell them, you don't want to hear this, but he's not the guy. I know you're looking for the next guy to be your next Andrew Luck. It's not going to be Anthony Richardson. He's not that guy. When Joe Flacco is your best quarterback, and this isn't a knock on Flacco, it's more of an indictment of what Richardson isn't. And he's not a franchise quarterback. And this isn't one of those, Mo, he'll develop. No, he's not going to develop into a franchise quarterback. He's not the guy.
And when you talk about his athleticism, I mean, it was on display. There was one play, Jalen Ramsey got a free release and from the blind side and just hit him. He didn't go down. He buckled forward a little bit. I thought he was going to fumble. He didn't fumble. He regained his composure, spun around, and got rid of the football for an incomplete pass before being brought down. There was another play in this game where he was pushed outside, and he got to the corner, and he's a big guy. I mean, Anthony Richardson's a big guy, but he got to the corner, and he blew past two defenders because he has tremendous speed, Mo. There was a play in this game right before halftime where he went 4 for 13 in the first half, but one of those 4 was a beautiful dime, almost 40 yards down the field, because he has a nice deep ball. There it is. Those are the 3 things that he does well. He can take and avoid hits. He has speed on the outside, and he can throw a pretty deep ball. That's it. You need more from your starting quarterback position than those 3 things, Mo. You can hide it for a little bit. You can get wins. You can be competitive at times if that's all you got. But if you're talking about winning divisions, if you're talking about double-digit wins, if you're talking about competing for a championship, that's not good enough. And I get it. They're invested in him. They took him higher, and I get it. I get all of that, Mo. But there's going to come a point where the Indianapolis Colts people, the decision makers, are going to have to look at Anthony Richardson and say to themselves, all right, he's not the guy. And how far back does that set your franchise? Because how much time are we going to put into Richardson to try to make him the guy? And right now, Mo, I see it. I see it in Indy. We're doing these things. Yeah, he went 10 for 24, but he didn't throw any interceptions. Guys, we got to have a bar that is higher than. Yeah, he only completed 41% of his passes, but at least he didn't throw a pick. That's the bar for your franchise quarterback. Like, he couldn't even complete 50% of his passes, but because he didn't throw a pick, we're feeling good about. Like, that can't be the bar, Mo.
They're invested in him. They are. And I have no problem if they're to prove me wrong and the coaching staff and the QB coach and the OC get with him and they do develop him into a terrific quarterback. That's great for the Colts. That's great for the league. And I will gladly come up here and go, I was wrong. Anthony Richardson is an elite QB. I don't see it. I see the talent, but I don't see it. And more importantly, we left out, as big a guy as he is, Chris, he's not the most durable guy. He takes a lot of me. He takes a lot of
history.
Right already, and he takes a lot of wicked shots. So there's a number of reasons to be cautious about what he's going to be going forward in Indy. And you're right, they're 4-3, but it's the weirdest 4-3 you'll ever see in the NFL because they look like a subpar team even when they win. It's weird.
Our last game we're going to get to today is the Steelers and the New York Jets. Man, oh man, if you thought New York was burning when they fired Robert Saleh, you ain't seen nothing yet because New York is burning this morning. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh at 4-2 with Justin Fields. Rolled the dice, some might say. I say, no, they did not, Mo. I say they did what they were going to do all along, which was start Russell Wilson when Russell Wilson was healthy enough to start the football game. Coming out of camp, we talked about this 2 months ago. Russell Wilson was the better quarterback. Russell Wilson had the better training camp. Russell Wilson had, I wouldn't say the better preseason because he was hurt for a lot of it. But Russell Wilson, all indications were that he was head and shoulders ahead of Justin Fields during camp. Then we get to the preseason. Russ is dealing with his calf issues. Fields does what he does. He has some highlight plays. He's got the sizzle going on. And you're like, well, wait a minute now. And I think we fell in love with that a little bit. And then he gets off to a nice start. The team is 4-2. But Mo, we talked about this last week. He's having these games where, he's completing 50% of his passes, 108 yards passing, no touchdowns, no picks. It's a lot of him running around, which is great. But how sustainable is that? That's what we keep asking ourselves. So Russ goes in there last night, and it's rough in that first quarter. They're booing. They're chanting for Justin Fields. And then from the second quarter on, Mo, Russell Wilson puts it together. He sets a record most passing yards for a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback in their debut game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He finishes with 264 yards passing, a couple of touchdowns, 60% on the completion percentage, 109 passer rating. He threw a couple of beautiful touchdown passes. He ran it in for another one. Mo, not bad for Russell Wilson's debut with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm starting to think some of these quarterbacks, these older established quarterbacks, they got 9 lives. We were talking about Flacco. Now I'm looking at Russ, and I'm like, he can still play. He still has good football in him. Look, the only clear thing that Justin Fields does better than Russell Wilson is he's a freakish athlete and can run like a running back.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's a better quarterback. And some of the throws that Russ threw in that game, Fields wouldn't even attempt it. One of the reasons why he's not throwing picks is they're right. He's not putting the ball in harm's way, but he's not attempting to throw the ball downfield. He's almost playing too safe, right? Like there's a reason why their offense is stagnant because Fields is not going to try to throw the ball deep downfield or any kind of crossing routes. I think Russ is a professional quarterback. He's going to put the ball, you can say in harm's way, but he's going to throw balls that professional quarterback's supposed to throw. I was happy for Russ. I really was, especially after that first quarter, because the first quarter I was like, oh man, if this keeps going like this, Russ is going to get benched during this game and he'll never see the light of day again. And to his credit, he sucked it up through all the boos and whatever. And I thought he was very good the rest of the football game. I thought he moved the football. I thought he had command of the offense. It was a good performance. I know some Steeler fans still have questions. Your team is 5-2. And I believe you're getting ready to go into the meat of your schedule. And we were talking about the division, that it was a murderer's row division. But really, it's not, because Cleveland's not any good. They're not any good. And I don't think Cincinnati, while I think Joe Burrow's a better quarterback, I don't think Cincinnati's a better team than Pittsburgh. So really, you're talking about the Ravens. I would say this division has been kind of a disappointment. But I think going forward, could Russ hold on to the job? Absolutely.
Mo, when I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. I did not think that Garrett Wilson was going to be tied for the most reception or most targets in that game last night. And he was. I was wrong about that. But when I'm right, I'm going to say I'm right. And Davante Adams was not the fix for the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers targeted Adams and Wilson 9 times apiece, not completing half of the passes to those 18 targets. And the results, well, let's talk about the result here, Mo, because the Jets were playing well early. They scored first. They had a 9-point lead midway through or towards the latter parts of the second half of that football game. And everything was looking pretty good until Aaron Rodgers throws the interception late in the second quarter. Russ gets the ball back in Jets territory, brings them down, scores a touchdown. The Jets don't do anything with the few seconds that are left over before the half. Then Aaron Rodgers comes out early in the third quarter with another interception, and Mo, everything just kind of came apart after that. And you saw the demeanor in Rodgers change. You saw his route tree as far as what he was throwing the ball to on the field change a little bit. And once again, like we've seen this time and time again with Aaron. Now, usually what you see with Aaron is he doesn't put the ball in harm's way, so he's not throwing picks, and he just takes the safe route, so the picks don't happen. As a Jet, we've seen him throw more interceptions, but when he starts throwing the interceptions, Mo, then you see his demeanor in the game kind of change, and it's not in a good way. And the Jets got nothing going after the first interception. Nothing. This is a bad football team. This is not a good football team, people. Aaron Rodgers is not playing good football. The offensive line is average at best. The defense is not a top 5 defense in this league. You have Sauce Gardner apparently not wanting to be there anymore. People are calling about Garrett Wilson, but the Jets say they're not going to trade him. I don't know if you're a Jets fan, Mo. I don't know what you're looking at this morning, but it's not good.
It's not good. It's I feel like they're in panic mode. Fire Saleh, that didn't change anything. Make a huge trade and bringing in Davante Adams, and I thought bringing in Davante Adams would open up the field for Garrett Wilson, which it did. But did it move the needle? It didn't move the needle, because we talk about this all the time. You can have all the talent you want on the outside. You have to get good quarterback play. And right now, they're not getting good quarterback play. Like, they can point the fingers at a lot of people. You need to start paying attention to Aaron Rodgers. That point the finger at Aaron Rodgers. He's not playing good football. He's turning the ball over at a rate that he's never turned the ball over in his career. And you're right. After that second interception, the body language changes, the demeanor changes. He's not nearly as confident. This is not a good football team. And I don't want to make a leap and say they're not going to make the postseason, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good right now if you're a Jets fan.
Mo, he has 6 interceptions in his last 3 games. So his last 3 games, all against good teams, by the way. Vikings, Bills, Steelers, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. What more can we say?
Yeah, you just put it out there. It is what it is. He's on pace to probably throw 17, 18 interceptions, which is insane for Aaron Rodgers when he's noted for taking care of the football. Father Time is undefeated.
Mo, take us to the end on a Monday, sir.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you guys.
Guys, we're back here same time, same place tomorrow morning. We are breaking down the rest of the NFL slate. We are getting ready for the upcoming week of NFL football. And, oh, by the way, the World Series starts later on this week. Wow. We'll be previewing some Major League Baseball stuff, wrapping up the WNBA season and looking forward to what could happen next season as they can try to continue to capitalize on their newfound success. Mo, all of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network.